Unmute my mic right there. Welcome to the Dark Side of BEASTwriter. I am your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we're going to be discussing a lot of topics as it pertains to your 2-7 Las Vegas Raiders. Now, before we go ahead and get started, I just want to say mahalo to each and every one of you for subscribing to the channel. Just be sure to turn on and flip on the bell notifications so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content. And again, thank you so much. As you see on the ticker here, we have a DOB giveaway. We run giveaways all day, every day. And so what I like to do is give back to the DOB family, because once you're in here, you're family, whether you subscribe to my YouTube channel, whether you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. It's all located in the description box here on YouTube, and you can see all the social media platforms that I'm on. So I want to give back to you guys because, again, that's what we do here. We're all about the home of the good vibes only here in the DOB. So thank you, everyone, for subscribing to the channel and supporting the Dark Side of BEASTwriter here in my first year covering the Las Vegas Raiders in Henderson, Nevada. Raiders headquarters is just down the street from my house. I can literally walk there. Not joking, here off St. Rose Parkway. So, all right. So without further ado, I'm just going to let you guys know that we are running some really cool giveaways. Usually I do one a week. This time I'm going to do two this week because I can and I want to, and I have the money to do it. So we are giving away this Raider Nation rally towel that I purchased from the Raider Image store. And again, it's really cool. You see it on right here. It's a heavy-duty towel, really looks good in your man cave or a female cave, whatever the case may be. It just looks swaggy as F. So you guys know where to drop that in. And so that's why I'm giving away the silver and black rally towel. And again, it's NFL licensed stuff. So again, it's all officially licensed and really good quality. And the other thing I'm getting, it's not everyone can get this. This is, again, it's right here. It's a 2022 alumni. They came out for the Raiders Patriots preseason game, and they were handing out this jersey rally towel. And again, unless you're a season ticket holder or unless you can afford those expensive seats on a day-to-day basis or weekly basis, you wouldn't have the opportunity to get this. But I'm going to go ahead and give you guys one of these to a lucky winner out there. Just be sure to follow me, spread the word, share all the content that I provide on the social media platforms that you guys are on, and that will do me. That will do us, I should say, that would do us a lot of help in raising the exposure here in the DOB. Now, I also want to point out that I'm also, of course, a beat writer for the Sporting Tribune. That's in the description box here on YouTube. I'm going to be pumping up some videos for them, and they're pumping up as we pump up our the Sporting Tribune YouTube channel. So I'll be pumping up that. You guys know how we like to do things here in the DOB, home of the good vibes only, and we are working some things on the back end, and we have really cool things in the works. I just got off the phone with my guy, Ross, the CEO founder. If you guys don't know who he is, he's a Ross Markazi, but you guys probably know who he is. But if not, please go and follow him and also follow us here in the Sporting Tribune. And again, I can't thank you enough for all the love and support. So again, we're going to go ahead and get started on this. We're not going to waste any more time because there's a lot to talk about. And I'm fielding a lot of DMs and a lot of comments on all the other social media platforms. And I have obviously all these banners up, so I want to get to those right away. So let's go ahead and not waste a beat, and let's get started on that. Xavier Figueroa says, need status on your boy Hobbs. Nate Hobbs, as you guys know, he was placed on IR right after the Kansas City Chiefs game. He was playing basically with a broken hand, broken thumb, whatever the case may be. And so he's been out. Now he can return this week, which will be on Wednesday. Wednesday is the first day that we get a live look, and that's when the injury report comes out, because tomorrow it's just Coach Graham and Coach Lombardi talking about, obviously, yesterday's game. So, again, today we had Coach McDaniels. The lineup tomorrow will be Coach Graham along with Coach Lombardi, and we will talk to them around 11:30, approximately around that time frame. So be sure to stay tuned here in the DOB here on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook and all the other social media platforms I'm on in this description box below here on YouTube. And again, you guys are on all these, I like to call it the big four. Let's face it, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter are the big four. Go ahead and follow me on all those social media platforms. I outlined my Instagram handle on there for you, as well as my Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. And so you can follow me on all those platforms. So again, we're going to go ahead and get started. But Nate Hobbs could return this week, obviously, because again, you have to miss 4 games. Now there is a 21-day window, I think, Oh no, he was placed on IR. So again, we're going to see that window to see what if he's going to be practicing in some kind of capacity. Because again, once you place on IR, you have to miss. IR stands for injured reserve for those who don't know, and there has to be an absence of 4 games in between, and the bye week does not count. So people are saying, "Oh, well, no, it's the bye week." Nah, the bye week really doesn't count. You have to miss 4 regular season NFL games. So again, he can return. Now, I don't know how that's going to play out because I haven't seen him in the locker room. No one's really spoken to him. So, again, Wednesday is a good indicating factor to see where he's at and if they're going to open that 21-day window for him to return to the field or not. So, again, stay tuned for that. But, again, we all know where this is going, right? We all know this team is 2-7. Coach McDaniels talked about it today. But I just want to go ahead and break down exactly what he talked about. So Coach McDaniels talked about a lot of different topics. The only question that I brought up today was in regards to nose tackle, defensive tackle Neil Farrell and Matthew Butler, both rookies, both drafted by GM Dave Ziegler, and both healthy scratches. Now, if you look at the designated last 2 games, you can kind of see that Neil Farrell was rotated in early on. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, the last game that they played, he is rotated on the second play of the game. So it's not like rotating defensive linemen on different rotational snaps on different drives like we see with other teams around the landscape of the NFL when I run my grading system. You're seeing these guys rotated in early and often because, again, we talked about it here in the DOB, right? We talked about ways that GM Dave Ziegler needs to kind of see what he has in order to formulate what he needs, right? You don't necessarily know what you need unless you know what you have. Right? So again, how do you guys get that analysis, right? From a scouting perspective, how do you gain that analysis? Well, you have to play these guys, give them live reps. Now, I'm not saying just give these guys live reps because they were drafted. I'm not saying that because we all know what happened with guys like Alex Leatherwood, drafted number 17 overall. He was shipped out, even though he's not a holdover for GM Dave Ziegler. I get it. Jonathan Abram was waived. We all know what happened there. But again, when you look at that dynamics around the entire NFL, you have to see and take things with a grain of salt. So when you look at the landscape around the NFL, that's what I see in terms of GM Dave Ziegler really needs to know what he has. Now, those guys were healthy scratches. So I asked Coach McDaniels, right, getting back to Neil Farrell and Matthew Butler, say, hey, man, these guys were healthy scratches. What do you make of that? And I didn't say those exact words, but I say, Neil Farrell and Matthew Butler were healthy scratches. What was the line of thinking behind that? Basically in a nutshell, right? And I posted this up on Twitter already and on YouTube. And he's like, it's kind of like basically an internal decision. He's not going to elaborate on it. I don't expect him to, but it was interesting to point out that they were healthy scratches. Look, you went ahead and you traded John Hankins for a 6th-round pick because you need to recoup that 6th-round pick for the Jarrett Stidham deal. I get it. Good move. But then at the same time, you activate Matthew Butler last week, if I'm not mistaken. And then this week you deactivate him. And then I saw Matthew Butler coming out of the locker room. He was actually one of the first to come out. And Neil Farrell was kind of in the corner inside that locker room post game. And I don't know what's going on as to why they're not playing. But then Coach McDaniels did cite discipline. He did cite accountability. And we talked about this throughout training camp. So I'm not saying that these guys aren't disciplined or aren't accountable. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Coach McDaniels talked about that. So whether that's there's some disconnect there or they're learning the NFL game, I don't know what it is. But remember, guys, I asked him the similar question last week as it pertains to both those rookie players. Why? Because, again, I like to peel back layers on the onion to really get to the core on a week-to-week basis. It's one thing to ask a question and then kind of veer off of it. But, again, if you keep the progress and asking those same types of questions but in a different way because, again, you're trying to formulate your analysis and trying to gain insight on exactly what the coach is thinking, you're going to want that information because that's as good as gold. So when I talked to Coach McDaniels last week, I say, hey, Coach. And Coach is not going to give you anything, by the way. He's not going to give you anything, but you can kind of read between the lines. And so I asked him about, hey, what's the progress report on Neil Farrell and Matthew Butler here at the midway point? He said, hey, they're basically not reacting. They're not reading as much, reacting. They're not thinking as much. The game has slowed down for them. This is what he said last week. So if the game slowed down for them, why were they deactive this week? And I'm not saying he's going back in his word. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying from a coaching perspective and from what he was telling me, he was saying one thing, but then did another. Now, I do like the addition of Kyle Pecco. You guys know how high I am on Kyle Pecco. I said he could be a starter down inside training camp from day one. And people were like, oh, well, well, what are you seeing? And I'm like, I'm telling you what I'm seeing. And I wrote the one-on-one battles, and you guys all come to love. So during training camp, right? Just breaking down the fundamentals, not talking about scheme, just breaking down fundamentals and breaking down the play as it unfolds. So with that being said, look, Kyle Peko played a hell of a game, right? He played a hell of a game. And here's a guy who was waived, released, brought back on the practice squad. Now he's elevated to the 50th man roster. All I got to say with Kyle Peko, because I've been talking with Kyle Peko throughout the entire year, is he's been on his A game, whether he was on the roster or not. He was putting in that work. He was in the weight room. He was playing pickleball with his kids and family. And so Kyle Peko is a guy for me that it's not surprising that PFF, PFF is the standard for a reason, that they gave him a very high grade, right? And so that's why I think for me, Kyle Peko maybe have earned that spot. You know, you talk about players earning stuff, right? Nothing is given, everything is earned. Just like nicknames, right? People call me BEASTwriter, or people call me Beast, whether in the fitness industry or here on YouTube or with the Raiders or what the case may be. And I always say, nicknames are never self-given. All right. They're never self-given. They're always earned. And from there, I think that's where your game gets earned too. Like Zeus White, where do you earn that name? Well, asked him to describe his game in one word. He called it dominant. People say the same thing when I talk to his peers. Dominant. Yeah, he's dominant. Right. And so again, when you talk about a guy like Kyle Peko, who's really putting in the work ethic, doing all the right things, being sound in his run fit integrity, which is very important in the Coach McDaniels scheme defense. You're going to be active on game day. You're going to be playing on game day. Come on. And I'll just keep it 100. Kyle Peko is better than John Hankins. I'm just keeping it 100. Kyle Peko is better than John Hankins. The burden of proof falls on you to prove me wrong, because I graded every single snap here in the DOB. So just calling it how I see it. No filter, keeping it unquestioned and unfiltered. Like it or not, that's how I see it. And again, the Beast receipts check out. Holla at your boy. Let's go ahead and Jay says, is Josh McDaniels play calling predictable? I'm not gonna say it's I'm not gonna say it's predictable because I'm not a coach at that level, so I can't be like, oh yeah, it's predictable. Like he knew what he was doing. Now, that's not to say that other coaches don't think it's predictable. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying I'm not gonna answer that question because, to be honest with you, we really don't know. I think it comes down to execution with the players. Now, there's a lot of different layers of the onion to when we get to the core about talking that aspect of the game and why it's affecting the play calling, is affecting player performance. But that could be for another live stream, or we can talk about it here. But to ask me whether or not I think it's predictable, I'm not going to go as far as to say that, because predictable. When you say predictable, you're kind of saying, okay, based on down and distance, based on the formation, based on what I see on game film, they're going to run the ball here. Okay, well, one thing is predictable, and I tweeted this out. If it's an offset eye, obviously, and Jakob Johnson's in the game, I think there's a 90% chance that they're going to run the football, right? I think that's kind of common sense based on the personnel groupings that you have. You wouldn't have Jakob Johnson to be in there to be a receiver out of the flat. Like, that's just crazy. There's no Kyle Juszczyk here, guys. All right, you can't run a wheel route on a linebacker and hopefully he wins between the numbers outside to the boundary. All right, and you just don't see that, right? You don't see that too often. Usually you see a Pat Ricard, all right? Usually you see the throwback type of fullback where you're just going to lay the wood on people, and Jakob Johnson did a really good job at that. So to call Coach McDaniels play calling predictable, or asking me if it's predictable, I can't give you a definite answer on that, because I would say he keeps defenses guessing. Now it comes down to execution. That falls on the players. OKC Raider says, get the likes up. Thank you so much. I appreciate the love. Kevin Wynn says, I think Dave and Josh will build this team the right way. I agree with you. And the funny thing is it's funny. I guess I'm trending on Twitter. Right? Is that the word, trending on Twitter? Anyways, I'm getting a lot of comments saying, oh man, Josh McDaniels should be fired. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Look, how many times have I said this? And Mark Davis echoed the same verbatim analysis that I said 2 months ago. 2 months ago. I even said this back on October 25th, and I retweeted it out. But I said it plenty of times here in the DOB. What did I say? What are the three parameters that I always talk about? Instant gratification versus long-term gains. What did Mark Davis talk about today? What did Mr. Davis talk about? Instant gratification. What else did I say? Rome wasn't built in a day, right? I mean, to be honest with you, this is kind of like, damn, BEASTwriter said it, because I did say it. And what did Coach Davis, what did owner Mark Davis say today? Empire wasn't built in a day. What a coincidence. Just like asking Coach McDaniels about the defensive tackles being inactive. But here we are, 2 for 2. All right. And so that's why I say, man, like, I tell it like it is, because I see it from different layers of the onion. Like, you cannot, again, from a coaching perspective, we can talk about that. From a player's perspective, I can talk about that. From an ownership perspective, I cannot talk about that. But then again, from an ownership perspective, I guess from a management perspective, having a management background, you can kind of play a game of, okay, as an owner, this is what your vision is. Now let's go ahead and see that vision. It's easy when you talk about the instant gratification for long-term gains to just say, oh, you know what? Let's just start over because we're 2-7. You know, why? Look at what GM Dave Ziegler is doing. And again, for anyone who says GM Dave Ziegler is a bad GM, I would question that. And here's the reason why. Look at what he had with. Look at what he started with. I talk about the game of Texas Hold'em. You're dealt whole cards. The flop comes out. I'm sorry. You're only good as the cards you're dealt. So if you have a deuce 7, which is the worst hand in poker, there's no way the hand's going to get better if there's if it's a rainbow flop and you see a 10, 9, and a king come out. What, are you going to bluff the other guy? Come on. Let's keep it 100. You have Alex Leatherwood. Sorry. Not sorry. That's what you're dealt with. That's what you're dealt with. The offensive line was a problem from the get-go, but then people are saying, oh, well, GM Dave Ziegler's he sucks because he didn't do the offensive line. Oh, but then guys tend to forget. I'm not saying you guys, but I mean, in general, people tend to forget, hey, look, we also got Devontae Adams and only gave up a first and a second. What did we give up for that? Oh, they got Quay Walker, Green Bay Packers, Brian Gutekunst. I like saying that name, Brian Gutekunst. Say that 10 times fast. But that's what they got. Right? And then what do they do? Oh, people tend to forget they made nice trades with the Minnesota Vikings. Kwesi, I can't pronounce his name. I would say Kwesi Adolfo Mensa, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Struck 2 trades with him on draft day. Sound players they got in return. All right, sound players. Look, they traded up 2 5s to move up to get Neil Farrell in the 4th. Good player. They got Dylan Parham, who was their top pick because they didn't have a first or second because they got that for Devontae Adams. Give me that any day of the week. Give me Devontae Adams, Bay Area rooted, any day of the week from EPA. Holla at your boy. So people are saying, oh, man. And then they signed Hunter Renfrow, the slot machine, right? And people, oh, man, they shouldn't give him that contract. But, I mean, everything's in hindsight. Cool story. What about in real time? Go back to the comments, guys. Everyone was on board. Darren Waller, everyone was on board. Everyone. So you can't blame Coach McDaniels. You can't blame GM Dave Ziegler if they don't have the healthy freaking horses, man. Like from a coaching perspective or a GM perspective, if you're out 2 of your top 3 pass catchers, your offense is not going to look good. That's just common sense. You take Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen out of that lineup. You go with the LA Rams. You take Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson ain't doing anything. But I'm just saying, you take him out of the lineup, Tyler Higbee out of the lineup. I mean, what you really got? We can go down the landscape of the entire. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. You're a Niner fan. You take Deebo Samuel out of the lineup, even though he lines up as a wide back. You take Brandon Ayuk. You take Jawan Jennings. Come on, let's talk. And you expect to do well. Really? And if you look at the offensive line around the landscape of the entire NFL like I do and run these grades like the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're horrible. But yet you're going to blame Najee Harris for not getting it done? He doesn't have a line. Which is why they're like, okay, let's trade Chase Claypool to the Chicago Bears and get GM Ryan Poles, a wide receiver that he can work with because we just let Allen Robinson go. Cool. How's that going for you? You get a 2nd-round pick in return. Okay, cool. But then what do you have left over? You have Deontay Johnson, who I really like, but he gets injured a lot. He's small. He's diminutive. He gets shifty. And you have some other players that you can kind of work with there, right? But at the end of the day, you have to take it for what it is. Look, if you look around the entire NFL, every team has a weakness, and you want to exploit that weakness with your strengths. That would make a mirror match, perfect scenario of chess. If you're playing checkers, you can kind of checkmate your way into a game of chess. But I'm not saying that Coach McDaniels should be fired. GM Dave Ziegler should be fired. No way, Jose. Not here in the DOB. Not here in the DOB. I'm just keeping them 100, and it's irritating because there's so many people asking me, yo, we need to fire Coach McD. It's like, dude, okay, is the grass always greener on the other side? Again, let's look at it from a lens outside of the freaking team that you're freaking liking. And I'm not saying you personally. I'm just saying in general. Look at it. Okay, let's play this blind. Let's play this blind, guys. All right? In reality, if you take Coach McDaniels out of the equation, is there a better option? Name a coach. Oh, we should go get Sean Payton. Okay. Does Sean Payton even want to come to Las Vegas? Secondly, secondly, that's not even a word. Second of all, I don't even think Mr. Mark Davis would even entertain that offer. And here's why. Because he brought in Coach McDaniels for a reason. He brought in GM Dave Ziegler for a reason. The vision is there's a 2 to 3 year outlook, at least. All right? At least a 2 to 3 year outlook for this thing to get going. And if you look at what the Raiders had, blame GM Mike Mayock. Blame John Gruden for missing up on the early round picks. And I said this. I was even covering the Raiders, and I knew they were bad picks. In real time. This is not hindsight after they had year one. This is in real time as I'm doing the live stream, as I always do here in the DOB. Talked about this. Oh, Damon Arnett's a bad pick. Alex Leatherwood's a bad pick. He should be kicked into guard. Check my beast receipts. I call it. I called it how I saw it. And I named the players that would have been better well served. Here we are today. Boom. Beast receipt checks out. You go around the landscape, all right? Josh Jacobs, great. He needs to be resigned. Now watch him obviously not be resigned. Look, I want Josh Jacobs to be back in the silver and black. I think that's a priority, but it's not obviously the Patriot or winning away, Raider away, whatever the case may be. But I want Josh Jacobs back because he was drafted number 24 back in 2019 overall. And he's been worthy of that contract. How many times has the guy get hit after initial contact, still made positive yards and positive gains? If you look at Zeus White, I love dominant Zeus White. Talk to him, in the locker room, probably more than any other player outside of. Actually, he's a good guy to talk to. But Zeus White, who calls his game dominant and told me label his game as dominant, he's going to be a good player. He's going to be a good player. But is he going to be a great player? Is he going to be a Josh Jacobs type of a player? Well, we don't know yet because the sample size to pull from is very limited. But what we saw in college, we have to convert that type of skill set at the NFL level, and what Coach McDaniels can kind of scheme him up and put him in the best position to make plays. That's what good coaches do. It's hard to do that when you don't have a tight end that can take away the seams. It's hard to do that when you don't have a wide receiver to run the slot and run the underneath routes, taking away coverage from Devontae Adams, who's kind of rolling over coverage that way. Even though he's double coverage, he could still be open. But how many times or how often, especially when you play in the AFC West, are you going to have that luxury? You're going against Justin Simmons. You're going against Pat Surtain from the Denver Broncos. You also have the Kansas City Chiefs out there who do a really good job of mixed matching coverages deep downfield. And then obviously Brandon Staley does the same with Derwin James. And of course they had JC Jackson, but he's kind of had an off year this year in my grading system, graded at a 0 overall. But, you have other guys like Asante Samuel Jr., right, who they got in the second round. You have other guys there who can kind of pick up the slack. And so, again, when you look at the landscape of the entire NFL, you cannot tell me that this team should be yes, they should be better than 2-7. I'm not making any excuses for that. I mean, that in itself is a kind of a losing to the Colts was kind of But at the end of the day, is it that surprising? I had this talk, and I'm not going to name the beat writer, but I had this talk with them before the Colts game. All right, real talk. Yesterday, and he asked me, "Say, hey Beast, what do you think about the game?" I said, "Don't be surprised if the Colts win." He's like, "Why do you say that?" He's like, "I know you have a grading, so why I said that?" I said, "You know why? Because I just think they're going to be dominant down in the trenches. I think they're going to win their battles." DeForest Buckner has been ranked number 1 in my grading system of all interior defensive linemen. Grover Stewart's a very underrated player. Bobby Okorokwe is a very underrated player. They have guys. They have a lot of speed. GM Chris Ballard does a really good job of getting the personnel that he wants. Oh, but the offensive line is horrible. That may be true. You might have Ryan Kelly. You might have Braden Smith. You might have Quentin Nelson. You may not have Mark Lewinsky. You may not have Eric Fisher. But at the end of the day, defense wins championships. Offense puts fans in the stands. Defense wins championships. I'm joking. No, I really wasn't joking. I really said that. And we saw what happened. Look, if you can't win on both sides of the football, down in the trenches, it's all for naught. I'm sorry. Now, this is not a knock on the Raiders' offensive line. I like the Raiders' offensive line. I think it's a good group of people. But unfortunately, outside of Colton Miller, who's kind of struggled this year, Dylan Parham has been I have to say, he's been the lone bright spot, even for a rookie. He's a mauler in the run game. There's a reason they got him out of Memphis. Before that was Memphis State. You guys didn't know that? Now you know. Go back to the days of Penny Hardaway, number 25 Penny Hardaway, before he went number 1 with the Orlando Magic. Dropping knowledge. Here we go. But it is what it is. It is what it is, guys. What's Up G says, should the Raiders try to get Tom Brady, reuniting Brady with McDaniels? Here we go. Here we go. We got the Tom Brady analysis shining through. But let's go ahead and talk about Jerry Tillery. I want to talk about that real fast. You guys can kind of gather your thoughts on my man, What's Up G, who's a moderator in here, and answer that question. But here's Jerry Tillery. Here's a guy that was claimed off the waiver wire. There's 8 teams vying for his services. And the reason why he's a former first-round pick. Coming out of college, usually those high-round picks are going to be coveted. Why? Because maybe throughout the draft process, some of these scouts said, hey, you know what? We really wanted him, but he went to the Chargers at number, 26, 28, whatever the case may be, what number it was in the tail end of the first. And we really liked him coming out of Notre Dame. Look, 6'6", 295, has a 34 and 1/4 arm length. All right, so the guy has the length size that you look for, and you want to see if that can convert from speed to power, right? You can be that size, but let's just face it. Are you a knee bender or a waist bender? If you're a waist bender, I don't want you because you're playing with a high pad level more times than not. If you're a knee bender, maybe we can work with you, bro. Maybe we can work with you. And so just a little background on Jerry Tillery, right? Jerry Tillery. He had some off-field behavior. He got in a scuffle with USC. Fight on. Was not joking. He really did. He was like stepping and kicking people. And then also got in some trouble for violation of team rules. But he cleaned up his act toward the end of his career with Notre Dame. And again, I like this guy. Graded this guy back at Notre Dame. Graded him covering the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, I covered Derwin James, covered Khalil Mack, obviously. But before that, before he came to the LA Chargers, we covered the LA Chargers and guys like Joey Bosa and all those guys. And you can kind of see this guy. Yeah, you can kind of see the flashes, but you don't see it consistently enough. But here's a guy who's strong at the point of attack. I mean, this guy is country strong. I mean, this guy's really, really strong at the point of attack. He sets a strong anchor. So if you were to ask me if he was scheme diverse or scheme dependent, I would say he's scheme diverse. He can play a 34 base in the defensive end as far as that is concerned, but he can also play a 4-3 defensive tackle role. So Coach Graham can kind of mix and match that front how he sees fit with a guy like Jerry Tillery. Another thing I really like about Jerry Tillery's game outside of that is he can 2-gap. And any defensive coach will tell you you're either a 1-gap scheme or a 2-gap scheme. Sometimes there's a hybrid of the two, but mainly you know what you are and that's what you are. And so if you can 2-gap, you can definitely 1-gap. Right? Because that's kind of common sense. If you can't 2-gap, then that probably means you can't. I mean, if you can't 1-gap, it means you can't 2-gap. So he has a 2-gap, 3-4 defensive tackle. I think that was his best fit. He can slip the slanting angles, as you like to say, because again, when you grade film, like I do, not at the NFL level, not just the NFL level, I'm talking about college. Last year, you saw Georgia using a lot of slant-based angling, tackling drills, right? And you saw them using that when it formulates to the game day. And so when you look on game days, when people, that's a misassignment. It's not, no, man, they're supposed to angle their leverage that way. That's what they were taught to do. So again, the rules of engagement, when Coach McDaniels talked about it in grading systems, you have to know the lingo behind that. I'm not going to go into that. I talked about it earlier on, but that's what I do in my grading system. Look, you have to know what they're doing in order to formulate the grade. You can't just grade by the nearest defender. That's a lazy way of grading. Like I hate a strong word, but I hate when people say, he was targeted this many as the nearest defender. It's like, nah, man, that's a great. What if it was a gap replace? What if he wasn't that? What even his assignment, bro? Like, what if he's just the last line of defense? But at the end of the day, that boundary quarterback gets beat on the daily, so the quarterback just knew that he was going to bite on the double move and just threw it deep downfield, and that safety had no help over the top because he is the help on top, and so he couldn't get there in time because the ball was thrown from the numbers to the sideline where the safety didn't have the range to cover that much ground in that short period of time. Holla at your boy. You guys want to come on, let's preach, man. I'm just saying. So that's why when people have these grading systems, like, man, like what? The burden of proof falls on you to prove me wrong because I run the grades. Kevin Lurker says, did you ever call yourself out for Chandler Jones sacks coming in the next 3 games? I did. No, I didn't say next 3 games. I said the next 6 games. I say he's going to go on a tear in the next 6 games. He has a half a sack. And I still believe that he's going to come up and pick up like 4 sacks in 1 game. I really, truly believe he's going to, I'm joking about that, but probably 2 or 3 sacks. I say he's going to have 4 or 5 sacks in the next 6 game span. So I have a lot of time still. I still have 4 games left because he picked up half a sack in that first prediction that I made. So I definitely will call myself out if and when I get it wrong. I like doing that, but it's not often. James says, well, he thought Jones was worth signing. That's a fail. I didn't think he was worth a signing. That's the wrong analysis. I never said that. I didn't say Jones was worth a signing. In fact, if you check the Beast receipts, in fact, you check my DOB grades that I've been running since he was with the Arizona Cardinals, you would know that I thought he was an average player at best. In fact, let me run the grades for that. So I think you're mistaking me for someone else. I got the grades. I got the games. And if you want that, I have it right here. I like how people... You said that. No, I didn't. Look, this is what I said. You want the grades? I'm putting it right now. Just let it load. Let it marinate real fast. All right, you want to talk about Chandler Jones? Let's talk about 2020. Let's talk about 2020, 2021. All right, graded at 2.3, 2.5 respectively. That's well below average. Right, because of run fit integrity. Same thing applies right now. 4.9. I say he was an average player. He wasn't worth $17 million APY. Point out the reasons why he wasn't worth $17 million. Why he signed that 3-year, $51 million contract. So no, I did not say that. Just putting it out there. I would never say that on a guy that's graded 2.3, well below average. Oh, he says not you, Ziegler. Oh, okay. Clarification. It wasn't me. It was Ziegler. Yeah, I would never have made that move. Never. He says some creators have the theory that a tank year was planned for McDaniels, Ziegler, and that could be the reason why Carr is emotional and Adams is pissed. Your opinion? Look, I'm not one to say that any coach is tanking. I think when you say that, you're really putting yourself in a tough spot here, because if you were to say that the team is tanking, you're basically waving the white flag. And what kind of message does that send to the rest of the team inside that locker room? Now, I will say this. I will say anytime you don't have Hunter Renfrow, anytime you don't have Darren Waller and you place those guys on IR, it gives you an out. It does give you an out. Not saying that they're tanking, but I'm saying it gives you an out so you can go back and say, hey, look, I ain't have the healthy horses. That's why we kind of didn't finish the way we did. In fact, that's kind of like how I would play it, right? Like if they were really injured, it just kind of just so happens to be that way, right? Like it's not like they're doing it on purpose. That's just the way everything kind of came to fruition. And so if someone's to ask me and I was in Coach McDaniels' position and they were out, I'd be like, yeah, like they're hurt. Let's get them back to health, because there's no use losing these guys to a long-term injury in a bleak season anyways. So for anyone to say that they're tanking, I challenge you, because 1, have you ever coached? 2, you have to look at it from a coaching perspective. And from a coaching perspective, if they're not ready to play, why suit them up in a bleak season? Why do it? Now, is that tanking? No, it's not tanking. It's doing the right thing, because, again, what you're trying to do is formulate the instant gratification versus long-term gains. The instant gratification is you guys, not you, but people want him on the field or want these guys on the field playing injured because, again, they're football players. They get injured, yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, what are they playing for? Like, it's a bleak season. Like, the season's basically – I'm not going to say it's over, because you still have to be mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. So I'm not going to say that, because I think this team does have fight and does play with a lot of heart. But at the end of the day, to say that they're tanking, I'm not going to go as far as saying that. In fact, I will never say that with Coach McDaniels and GM Dave Ziegler running the ship. I disagree with that 100%, that guys are saying they're tanking. And again, It's funny when people say they're tanking, because I would challenge that line of thinking. Tanking to me is when you purposely do things that kind of make you head scratch and be like, okay, why is that happening? For instance, tanking would be pulling Derek Carr and putting in Jarrett Stidham. That would be tanking, right? Nothing against Jarrett Stidham. I think he's going to be a quality NFL quarterback. But on that type of a level, that would be tanking. Taking out Devontae Adams and maybe starting DJ Turner and putting up some of these practice squad players and elevating to the active route, that would be tanking. Solidifying the offensive line, right? Taking out maybe 3/4 of their offensive line and inserting practice squad players, that would be tanking. But to say that they're tanking based on the sole reason of the reasons that they're provided based on what has transpired and what has happened, I don't think that's tanking at all. Again, how you can formulate that analysis? You have to look at the landscape around the entire NFL. How many other players went on IR? I mean, let's talk. For you to formulate that analysis that a team is taking, or somebody, not you personally, but look at the entire NFL. And that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of the whole thing. It's like people want that instant gratification, but it's all about the long game. It's all about the long game. But and here we are today, right? Here we are today. So Raiders owner Mr. Davis, right? He talked about the instant gratification, and of course we talked about this. And Rome wasn't built in a day, right? An empire wasn't built in a day. Same exact lingo that I use over and over again on this live stream. Go figure. Verbatim. People are saying, "Oh, Mr. Davis should sell the." I mean, it's like what? Like, okay. Again, is the grass greener on the other side? It's like it's so crazy how one. And again, it happens with every fan base. Every fan base has, and it's okay to get emotional. It's okay to get upset, and it's okay to be upset with the team. Because let's be honest, the standard is the standard. The standard is 3 Super Bowls right here, right? You see that patchwork right here. That's 3 Super Bowl wins, right? The standard is the standard. They beat the Vikings. They beat the Eagles. They beat the Washington football team. Now the Commanders, formerly of the Redskins. All right, but to say that these guys need to go, it's just mind-boggling to me. It's like, man, give it some time. Xavier Figueroa says, patience. We haven't built with our picks. New regime again. Constant internal chaos. No defensive threats outside Max and Nate. But overall, we need continuity, and obvious additions. Yes, absolutely. Joseph Soto says, is there any reason not to sign Josh Jacobs? Yes, there's a lot of different reasons not to sign Josh Jacobs. The biggest one is money. When you look at the contractual, and again, no one talked about this yet, and I've been talking about this, so I would say I'm the first one to talk about this because no one else talked about this, but people are talking about the franchise tag. No, they're not going to give him the franchise tag. They might give him the transition tag, which is top 10 salary money, not top 5 money. All right. So when you look at the dynamics between transitional money and franchise tag money, you're dealing with top 5 money versus top 10 money. In order to peel back a layer of that onion to get to the core, when I formulate that analysis on the transition tag, on slapping him with the transition tag, we have to look at not only the financials, but what it really means for the team moving forward. Look, it gives GM Dave Ziegler an out. What I mean by that is he gets the first right of refusal. If Josh Jacobs goes and wants to see fair market value, he can go out and do that. And if a team says, you know what, Josh, we think you're worth X amount of money, he can go back to the Raiders and the Raiders can match that offer. Now, there's no compensation involved if he lets him walk, unlike the franchise tag, but at least it gives him the first right of refusal than simply just letting him walk. That's what I would do, because now you're forcing leverage on the team that really wants him to pay up and pay a pretty pony. Pretty pony penny. Makes sense? Pretty pony penny. But yeah, there is a lot of different reasons why Josh Jacobs won't return. Another one is that he declined his 5th-year option. And another one on top of that is they drafted Zeus White in the 4th round. You don't draft a guy and keep Britton Brown, by the way, who drafted, I believe, in the 7th round, to ride the pine. I mean, you draft these guys because you think and you see something and you see some potential in their game and that you can develop these players so they can be solid starters in the NFL. Otherwise, why draft them? Or provide good depth behind, whatever the case may be. Eric Ramos says, Perriman doesn't want to play anymore. No, that's not true. I actually posted a video up of Denzel Perriman, exclusive video up on the YouTube channel here. in the DOB, and I provided some insight as to what your thoughts are. Look, he was jogging. He was running his coverages. He's dropping back in coverage, sinking those hips, kind of getting loose before the Colts game. He was officially listed as questionable after being listed as limited over the last 2 practices heading into Sunday's game. And again, he's dealing with a hip and rib injury. So again, if you're looking at it from, I guess, a injury standpoint, you want to see those hip flexors. You want to know if he can flip those hips. You want to know how he has that lateral agility and if he can stay stride for stride with the receiver downfield and change of direction and all that, right? So that's what you kind of saw there. And he was just kind of going through the motions. I'm not saying go through the motions in a bad way, because you don't want him to go full speed and then re-injure himself. But I saw him going through the motions, which is a good thing. And you can kind of see some positive vibes coming out of that workout. Now, I will say this. I was not going at even a 75% speed rate, if you were to ask me, because again, I was breaking down the time clock speed when he was running his 20s. And again, I do this all the time, but I'm very attention to detail oriented. And so when you see him running, he was just basically trying to get warmed up and reacclimated to that muscle memory when he goes in the game in real time. So again, that will be something to watch come Wednesday. But as far as Denzel Perryman, I think that's a good sign that he's out there on the field before the game, because he was listed as questionable. So another week to prepare and get that physical therapy and get that treatment going. Odds are good that he's going to be active on game day, if I had to take a guess. Now watch him not be active. 4K Raiders, his thoughts on how Sam Webb played. Sam Webb is a guy that I was really, really happy to see play. If you guys watch my Dark Side of BEASTwriter YouTube videos of yesterday's game before kickoff, I posted that video. I think I posted up on Twitter for all of you guys to enjoy. Again, follow me on all the social media platforms, and it's in the description box here on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, you can follow me on Twitter at BEASTwriter. You can follow me on YouTube at BEASTwriter. You can follow me on Instagram at BEASTwriter. So go ahead and follow me on all those social media platforms. I'm also on Facebook at Dark Side of BEASTwriter. So DOB, Dark Side of BEASTwriter. I have a Facebook page. I also have an exclusive private Facebook group. So you guys go and want to join there. And so that way you guys can kind of stay online with everything I have to say. But getting back to it, no, I like Sam Webb. I thought he played a sound game. I'm still running grades on the defensive side of the football when it comes to the Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm going to reserve my comment for that. But I did like what I've seen from Sam Webb to the naked eye. All right. So D-Man says he was warming up before the game. He was. Raiders game recognized game. He says, were you there when Carr broke down? The funny, no pun intended, right? To ask your question, I was obviously there, but I wasn't inside that room because I was getting player interviews, talking to players. So we have the option, and for those who don't know, is once the game concludes, we have the option to either go to the press room and Coach McDaniels is there and Derek Carr is there, or we can also at the same time go and get our player interviews. And so I almost always like to go and get that exclusive player locker room interviews, because again, the way I like to formulate my analysis is getting that, because Derek Carr I can get from the live feed anyways, just like all of you guys. So to answer your question, I was there, but I wasn't presently there because I was inside the locker room getting those interviews and talking to the players during that time frame. Dylan Hawley says, hey, Beast, just tuning in. If the Raiders season, thank you so much, by the way, for the super chat. I appreciate it. It means a lot. He says, and I quote, and again, if you guys want to support, if you like the channel, please do me a favor and give it a thumbs up. Again, it does me a solid and it promotes this video to other like-minded Raider Nation like yourself. And that way it helps me get exposure and building up the Dark Side of BEASTwriter family. So if you guys like the channel, if you guys are watching from 48 minutes and 55 seconds now, and you like what I have to say, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and flip on and turn on the bell notifications. And also, if you guys like to donate, you guys can do so like Dylan Hawley here with a super chat or super sticker here on YouTube. All right. He says, hey, Beast, tuning in. If the Raiders season continues as it is, do you think the Raiders take quarterback in draft or Will Anderson? You know what? I am a huge Will Anderson fan, always have been since his true freshman year when I covered him for Hot Mike. And again, When I'm talking about Will Anderson, I see a number one edge rusher who is not scheme dependent. He's scheme diverse. He can play in a 34 base front as an outside linebacker, or he could play in a 4-3 base as a defensive end. Now, the funny thing about Will Anderson is he's so young. The kid is young, and he's been, if you were to ask me if he was to come out last year, if he was eligible, even as a sophomore, he would have been number one player on my big board over Aiden Hutchinson, over all these other guys, even over Sauce Gardner, believe it or not. He would be ranked higher over Sauce Gardner. And I like Will Anderson. I like what he brings to the table. And again, he's a very, very smart player. Usually when you come into the league, you have to coach up these fundamentals because you don't know what these players are being taught at the college level or even the high school level. So they can maybe create some bad tendencies and bad habits throughout their game. But again, when you talk about a guy being scheme dependent, this guy's scheme diverse. So if he were to come in, Coach Graham's system or anyone else's system around the NFL, like D'Amico Ryans or some of these other coordinators around the league, and you look at what they're trying to do, there's no drop off in production. Just plug and play and let him roam. Let him roam. Roll Tide, roll. No, but to answer your question, I'm a huge Will Anderson fan, and he is definitely number one ranked on my big board, and that's not going to change. No quarterback is good. I don't care what quarterback is coming out. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, I love you, but not going to beat Will Anderson, man. Not going to beat Will Anderson. I think he's the most fundamentally sound player to come out of this draft class. And again, he's not a one-trick pony. Usually when a guy comes out, you can kind of see the traits that you see in the player, and you're like, oh, yeah, I can kind of coach him up to be XYZ. Nah, man, he has it. And that's a luxury you cannot buy. So again, if I'm the Las Vegas Raiders, and I know this sounds crazy, would I take Will Anderson over a quarterback like CJ Stroud, over a quarterback like Bryce Young? For me, that's a tough one to make, GM Dave Ziegler, because Will Anderson has been the best player in college football for the better half of the last 2 years. And don't be a box score reader. Not talking to GM Dave Ziegler, obviously he's not. I'm just saying, everyone, don't be a box score reader. Oh, stats down. Come on now. Look at the pressure rate. Look at the pressure rate. I'm just saying. But I like Bryce Young. I don't mind. And I'm just going to put this out there and check the Beast receipt. I don't care if I put my stuff out there. Mark it down. I like Bryce Young than I do CJ Stroud. I like Bryce Young. And that's not me being a Roll Tide Roll fan, being biased. I keep it 100. I like Bryce Young better than CJ Stroud. Must be a Roll Tide Roll thing. I don't know. I like Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. Just putting it out there. And by the way, I was wearing my Alabama stuff, swag today. We went to this Hobby Lobby store down the street off St. Rose, and I was getting all the looks. People was giving me dirty looks. I'm like, man, did I offend somebody? I'm just cold. And I just happened to like Roll Tide Roll. So I was getting the dirty looks. They're like looking at me like, and I'm looking back at them like, just for that, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow dressed up in my Roll Tide Roll stuff. So if you see me, holler at your boy. You might win something. I'm joking. I have Spot the Beast contests. I run those all the time. And then I'll ask you a question, a random question regarding the Raiders. And I'll get it on video and give you guys some love because I like giving you guys some love. But if you want to be on video, that's okay too. You'll still win the prize. All right. So Retro says, is it just me? But thank you so much, Dylan Hawley, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kevin Lurker, for the super chat. I appreciate it, my guy. He says, Will Anderson or Roquan Smith? Give me Will Anderson. And the reason I say this is because, one, these guys play different positions. One is an edge rusher. The other player is an off-ball linebacker. Now, if you look at my base receipts coming out, when I look for a linebacker, I list checking the boxes, right? And I wanted the San Francisco 49ers to draft him when I was covering the 49ers as one of their beat writers. And I said, again, the draft day reference, draft Roquan Smith no matter what. And you guys all saw the video and the picture that I posted straight from Levi Stadium. But they didn't. I said, they need to trade up. They don't go and get Mike McGlinchey. I knew they were going to go and draft Mike McGlinchey. I said, don't do that. Get Roquan Smith. Just trade up and get Roquan Smith. He's a Pro Bowl player. The guy is sideline to sideline. He has a nonstop motor. He's tough. He's physical. He has that leadership mentality. He's an alpha male. He has a good high football character. The guy wants to win. He is a football player. It's funny. Everybody knew I was high on that Roquan Smith, and even the GMs knew it. And so the scouts did too. But Ryan Pace drafted him. You know what? I like Roquan Smith too. I'm going to draft him number 8 overall. And that's what happened. But when it comes to Will Anderson and Roquan Smith as the best linebacker, it's kind of it's not really comparing apples to apples, although it is a good question because they are linebackers. But I would say that Roquan Smith is more of an off-ball linebacker as opposed to Will Anderson, who's more of an edge rusher from the linebacker position. But both players, you can't go wrong with both players. But if I had to take one over the other, I would rather have Will Anderson over Roquan Smith. I just think that Will Anderson's a little bit more polished coming out of college, and I think he has traits that you really can't coach. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about those traits on another live stream because I'm going to do a breakdown of the 2023 NFL draft prospects when I run my grades on the game film. So again, this is everything and nothing but love here in the DOB, but I really like Will Anderson. I think he's the real deal. He's just a player that really, really, to me, if you were to compare Will Anderson to a player, and again, I shouldn't say I don't like comping players, but I will reserve the right to comp that scenario between Will Anderson and XYZ or whoever, because the season's not over yet. But once that season concludes, I'll definitely have a comp of that player, just like I do throughout the draft. And if there is one, now sometimes there's not one, and so I'm not going to just plug and play like, oh yeah, this guy reminds me. It's like, nah. And don't get me started. Some people comp stupid things. Sometimes it's stupid. Like they play two different. Like it's stupid. Like one's a defensive tackle, the other is a linebacker. It's like, what are you doing? Comping. Anyways, whatever. Raiders game recognized again. Thank you so much, Kevin Lurker, for the super chat, though. That was a great question, man. I do like Roquan Smith. In fact, I do think it was a good find by GM Eric DeCosta to go ahead and pull that trigger with Ryan Poles. And Ryan Poles is cleaning the house. I mean, got rid of Roquan Smith, got rid of Akeem Hicks, got rid of Bilal Nichols, let him walk. Why did you do that? Well, GM Z Ziegler's happy. 2-year, $11 million. Holla at your boy. Okay, one man's trash is another man's treasure. What are we doing, Ryan Poles? Now, Ryan Poles is a good GM. He's coming from the Kansas City Chiefs under Brett Veach. I think he's going to do a tremendous job. He just wants to clean house and get his guys that he wants in-house, which is probably why he got Alex Leatherwood. I'm a former offensive lineman. I know it. I see the talent. Oh, man. This is funny. V says, I'm behind. Sorry if my chat out of the loop. You're good, man. He's like, we're good. Steven says, Jalen Carter. Look, I like Jalen Carter. He's the one guy that jumped out on film last year, even in my grading system. And again, the funny thing about Jalen Carter is Bilal Nichols provided the same aspect. And it's funny how we mention Jalen Carter now when they already have Bilal Nichols, because when I was running grades on Khalil Mack, on these other guys, Mario Edwards, who was on the team, some of these Akeem Hicks, who was on the team, and you run grades, Bilal Nichols really jumped out. And that's why when people were saying, who the heck is Bilal Nichols? Hey, man, I had the grades, and I gave you guys a rundown on that. Same thing applies with Jalen Carter. They have Quay Walker, right? They have guys like, I was going to say Roquan Smith. No, they're not. No, my guy, Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean, if you're watching, hopefully all is well in Philly, my man. Nakobe Dean, my number one ranked defensive player. And people are like, oh, man, he's too small. That's why he fell. Look, I talked to some guys internally. That's why he fell. But look, don't measure the size of the dog in the fight. Measure his heart. And aside that, the film don't lie. Nakobe Dean is a freak of nature. Philly got to steal him and Jordan Dick. My gosh. And then, of course, Jalen Carter. So, and you also can't leave out Darian Kendrick, who I was really high on coming out. Although he was in the love shack, as Dabo Sweeney would call it. And then he went to the doghouse with Georgia. Get it? No pun intended. He called it the Love Shack. I thought that was hilarious. No, he's not in the doghouse. He's in the Love Shack. If I DK, I'd be like, bro, like, call it what you want, man. Okay, I'm out of here, bro. It's tough love. It's all love. People like, if you guys don't know the reference on everything I'm saying, you're probably new to follow me this year. But again, I run grades on all college players. I mean, we can talk about Georgia. We can talk about George Pickens. I talked about that matchup with him and Pat Surtain, even 2 years out from being drafted. So, hey, this is what I do. I like to grade college, NFL, high school. I'm joking. I don't grade high school. That'll be next on my list, though. I ran into some guys at EOS, and they follow me here in the DOB, and I'm trying to convert them into Raider fans, so they follow me. And one of them did. He's like, I like your stuff. I'm going to follow you. I was like, hey, man, you have to follow me because I cover silver and black. Are you going to be a Raider fan? He's like, okay, I live in Vegas now. So, yeah, I'll be a Raider fan. I was like, okay, I see what you did. There you go. So, turning one 16-year-old into a Raider fan at a time. That's what I want. I want all the youngins to convert to Raider fans. And it's funny because a lot of times here when I go to EOS over here, we see Packers fans, we see Cowboys fans. In fact, today when I was at the gym for 3 hours, so I'm there for a long duration. And when you're there, you get bored. So you just kind of people watch, right? In between sets, you're like, damn, I'm tired, bro. Like, what am I going to do? So I just people watch for in between sets. That's what people do. I mean, it's the gym. What do you expect? But you don't stare like this, but I'm just saying. And I was looking around. I was like, man, Eagles fans, Packers fans, Chargers fans. I was like, that's weird. I saw a lot of Raider fans, though, too. But then I asked some guys, like, are you a Raider fan? He's like, no, man, I just like the colors. I thought, that works, too. Because I'm not a football fan. I just like the colors. Like, that works, too. Silver and black. Can't go wrong with that. But I'm going to convert. I swear, I promise you, that's my mission. I'm going to convert all the youngins who follow me for my fitness gains over at EOS. And they already know what's up. They already know what's going on. And I'm slowly converting them. I converted one out of there's 7 of them. It's a group of kids. They go to Liberty High School. Not kidding. I didn't even know what Liberty High School was. I just see it. And then I was like, oh, yeah, I play football. So one converted. The other 6, I got to convert those guys. I promise you, they'll convert. They all follow me for my fitness. I say, look, if you're going to follow me fitness, you got to follow the Raiders because I cover the Raiders. One of them's a Niner fan, and he knew that I was a Niner fan before covering the Niners. He's like, dude, you're coming from the Bay Area, dude. He's like, you used to cover the Niners. And I was like, I can't say, yeah, you're pretty much right. I was like, hey, but I'm here in Vegas now. And he laughed. I say, well, will you convert? He's like, we'll see. He's like, give me a workout. I said, okay, I'll give you a workout. My guy, Jeff KC from the Kansas City Chiefs. So we got all fan bases in here as I run my grades and run fantasy football and predictions, analysis during the draft. You guys know how we do it here in the DOB. Look, Jeff's been in here for a long time, and he wants to know who my MVP is. You're going to say Pat Mahomes. That's a great question. Right now at the midway point, it's a really tough sell because, again, I like running the DVOA, right? Defense adjusted value over average. And I have that in my grading system. I have my own algorithm for that as well. So again, it's not as simple as saying, going to the box scores and say, and win percentage and be like, oh yeah, these guys are doing well. Again, you have to run the grades. Like how many of those plays did that specific player have an impact on that drive? How many of those plays was him going up against a stacked box? How many of those plays were over expected value in the yardage category, right? So again, you have to look at it. Let's grade by the nearest defender. No, I don't do that. That's horrible. But to ask me who the MVP is at the end of the year or now, like that is a hot sell right now because I don't know, man. If you're asking me right now, I think that's very fluid right now. Obviously, Pat Mahomes is up there. You can't go wrong with Pat Mahomes. I mean, the guy is just a winner. And 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, I think. Let me double check on that. I think he has 25 touchdowns and 7 picks last I checked. But let me just double check on that. Pat Mahomes. And if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, here we go. And he leads the NFL with 2,936 yards. Doesn't have Tyreek Hill. But he has Mecole Hardman. Doesn't have Sammy Watkins. But it has Juju Smith-Schuster from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, gosh, I love football. Love football. OKC says, I think we need to draft for defense. Yes, absolutely. Defense is the way to go, or offensive line. Now, I do like the selection of Jack Conklin. He's a free agent, pending free agent at the end of the year. I don't think GM Andrew Berry from the Cleveland Browns is going to go ahead and sign this guy to a long-term deal. He's young enough to where you can get him on a contract that's kind of feasible. You can kind of recruit him into the process and say, hey, look, Conklin, I think you'd be good for us. No, Jack Conklin would be perfect. I like Jack Conklin. Let's get Jack Conklin from the Cleveland Browns. Plug him in at right tackle with Colton Miller on the left side. You have Andre James there in the middle. And then you can just roll left guard Dylan Parham for the second year in a row at left guard if you see fit. And then the only position you really need to fill the hole in is at right guard, which will be a camp battle. Nonetheless, I guarantee it. Storyline of 2023 training camp. Can't wait for my one-on-one battles. I know you guys are looking forward to those. Joseph Soto said, who's your top college prospect as of today? Will Anderson. Give me Will Anderson all day, any day of the week. I love Will Anderson. Love Will Anderson. Love Will Anderson. Will Anderson. Oh, man. You cannot not like Will Anderson. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about in terms of next year, the draft. But again, people tend to forget. There's every year, I also do a rundown of the top 3 salary cap casualties for each NFL team. And you know what my prediction rate is on those? 32 times 3 is what? Do the math. That's 96. Of those 96 projected cap casualties, I am at a 65% rate since I started doing it 3 years ago. So every year, you're going to want to tune in the offseason because there is no offseason here in the DLB. I talk about every freaking team, which is why Jeff from KC is in here because I called it out. 3 cap casualties. Boom, boom, boom. All of them got cut. Not just the practice. I'm not saying the borderline play. I'm talking players like, whoa, that dude was cut. Bro, you got to know the financials. You can't just say, let's go get this guy. He has to fit financially in the snap sheet, bruh. All right. That one goon says, is there a chance Lamar Jackson hits the open market and goes to Las Vegas? You know, that would be nuts. That would be insane. What if that was what if GM Eric DeCosta, and if you guys don't know, he's with the Baltimore Ravens GM for those who don't know, learned a lot from Ozzie Newsome, Roll Tide Roll. Had to put out there. But what if Eric DeCosta, top 5 GM in my grading system, hit up GM Dave Ziegler's like, you know what? We're 2 of the best GMs. Let's make a deal. Let's do a sign and trade. Greg Roman runs all the time anyways. I used to cover Greg Roman during the Harbaugh days back in San Francisco. All right? He is all about smash mouth football, baby. So you don't need a quarterback necessarily to be a guy that can, well, let's face it, he had Alex Smith. Yes, he had Colin Kaepernick, but you don't need a guy to like be a Pat Mahomes. You don't need a Josh Allen. It'd be great to have him, but you don't necessarily need those guys. And the way the Baltimore Ravens are playing, they're not going to be available anyways. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young. Who's that other Kentucky quarterback? Will Levis. I don't know. Silent Goldie says, what pick range do you think we end up with? I talked about this on 2 live streams ago, but I'll go ahead and answer that question today here on this Pick 6 segment. Again, if you guys are just following me here on YouTube or whatever the social media platform you are on, because we are streaming on all the social media platforms, give it a thumbs up, like it, comment, and also if you'd like to support the channel here in the DLB as we are 1 hour and 8 minutes and 59 seconds in, please be sure to send me a super chat or super sticker here on YouTube. It would definitely help out the channel grow and also share the channel on all your social media platforms. A lot of you guys are on Facebook. A lot of you guys are on YouTube and on Twitter. So just retweet the video that you see here, and it does a lot of justice, because if you like what I have to say, odds are someone like-minded like yourself that is a Raider Nation fan will also go ahead and be a recommended video for them. So be sure to go ahead and do that. It would help me out a lot here in the DOB family, and I can provide better gifts for you. You know, the more the merrier, right? So why not? And again, we are giving away this week 2 prizes. This 2022 alumni jersey that was given to me by the Las Vegas Raiders themselves. And this Raider Nation rally towel, courtesy of Raider Image. I shouldn't say courtesy. I bought it from Raider Image, but that's where you get it. Good stuff. I know this question was good, and I covered Chip Kelly at UCLA. I knew this question was going to pop up. You think DTR from UCLA is going to make it to the NFL? Look, he can. He can. He had a really good game, but I don't know. No, I'm joking. I think he's good enough to make it in the NFL. Now, is he going to be a good player? I don't know, but someone's going to take a flyer in him. Some GM is going to take a look. You know what? This Adam, as an undrafted rookie free agent. No, I'm joking. I don't know where his draft stock is right now, to be honest. Quite honest with you, I have to do more research on him. But I knew this question was going to come up because 3 more people who are Niner fans asked me the same question. Oh, you used to cover Chip Kelly. What do you think? Oh my gosh, here we go. Here we go. Mr. Maui 38, what's the vibe been in the locker room, bro? What's your gut feeling been? Well, I tweeted this out already. It's already out there. I was in that locker room. If you guys notice, I didn't interview one player in terms of getting that video footage here on YouTube, here on Twitter, and my other respective social media platforms on Instagram or Facebook. And the reason for that, well, the vibe was really, really deflated. Like I can see it. I think it's good because I am self-employed, so I have the option to go out and press the issue, or I can kind of pick my spots. You know, I thought that was just one of those spots, and I talked to some of the guys inside the locker. It was just one of those spots where I say, I'm not going to ask you anything, because the team looked deflated. It felt like the air was sucked out of the whole entire venue once the game was over. People were frustrated. Players were frustrated. They voiced their frustration. I think a lot of it has to come down to execution, embarrassment, frustration, and I mean, anytime you lose and you go 2-7, I'm just gonna put it like this: from a player's perspective or from a coaching perspective, there's players that are gonna speak up, and the team captains are gonna speak up. Now, are they gonna have a players only meeting? I mean, maybe those discussions took place. And look, I've been on a few teams where we've been horrible. All right, I'm just going to put it out. I mean, we were the worst. We were the bad news bears. All right, we were the worst team in the league. We were horrible, but I was one of the star players. All right, cool story. You were a star player on a bad team. Cool. No, what I'm saying is, and I was the captain. So as the captain, you do get frustrated, and Derek Carr talked about this, when you're putting forth the effort and there's other players not to that standard of effort. So you don't think as a team captain, I'm going to call you out. In fact, here's something, and this is actually when we were good, but I remember my sophomore year, I was the team captain, and we were having practice, and Coach DeMolante was like, hey, I want you to run the drills. All right, cool. I want you to lead the drills. Okay, I'll lead the drills. One of the guys who I will not mention, should I mention it? It's been like 20 years ago. Doesn't matter. Nah, I won't mention it. Anyways, he was jogging. Oh, so we got in trouble. All right, because we had too many turnovers the game prior. All right, so we had to do suicides. All right, you guys don't know what suicides is you run from the end line to the end line and then go. Depending on the coach, you can run every 10 yards. You can run every 5 yards and back to the end line and then to the 10 and back to the 5. So we were running suicides. Hard. And coach says, you know what? Some of you guys are dogging it. We're not going to stop until you guys put in 110% effort on these suicides. Well, what happened was some of these guys weren't listening. They weren't hearing. They were hearing, but they weren't really listening, right? So I turned. I was like, yo, I'm gonna try to do this all day. Like, either you get in, do it, or you get the hell out of here. Like, literally, I told him we almost got in a, actually, no, we did get, I shouldn't say that. Violence is bad. We did get in a scuffle, and that was the end of it. We had our beef. We separated. It wasn't like a Draymond Green type of a deal, but we had our beef. We separated, and hey, look, he got his act together. There's a standard level of performance that you must uphold. The captains have the option and they have the authority of the room, because they're team captains, to kind of voice their displeasure, or it goes the other way, or concerns, or even praise within the locker room. So if you're a coach and you have these team captains, those guys are the ones that are going to lead the locker room, right? Because player to player interaction is sometimes different from coach to player interaction. You guys get what I'm saying? If you guys don't know what I'm saying, I guess to put it in layman terms, kind of in the workforce, right? Maybe someone that you work with as a coworker would be a little bit different receiving that same type of feedback as someone who's maybe a little higher up and is more in an authoritarian role. And so I think what you're seeing now is, again, Coach McDaniels talked about accountability, talked about this during the preseason, talked about guys buying into the program. He talked about guys being disciplined, smart, fundamentally sound, trusting your eyes. We all talk about this, right? Throughout the Raider way, right? The Raider way. If you're not buying into the program, or if you're taking plays off, or if you're not taking those mental reps that you used to be taking during training camp because you're 2-7, we'll see ya. You're not going to be here very long. We'll just bring in someone else who wants it more. All right, we just bring someone else who wants it more. So I don't know what necessarily is going on there, but I will say this. I will say that when I went inside that locker room, I didn't get any player interviews simply because I did listen to them, and I was recording it, obviously, for my stories. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where I just kind of tailored back from it, because it wasn't a good feeling all the way around. And again, the team is 2-7. They lost to a head coach who had no NFL coaching experience, let alone no college experience. So, and the week prior, he said that the Raiders look horrible. So he tweeted that out. So that's just like one thing after another. And you guys can imagine, how would you take it if you were a player and you got embarrassed like that? Mr. Malley says, thanks for the insight, man. It just feels like the coaches and Mark Davis are hiding something, especially after Carson Adams' reaction. It's great to hear your insight since you're there. Yeah, and thank you, man. I appreciate it. And like I said, no one really knows for sure unless you're inside that locker room. So I'm just trying to keep it 100 from a player's perspective, from a coaching perspective, and then kind of mirror matching between the two and kind of making common ground sense on exactly what's going on. Because it's easy to point fingers, right? It's easy to say, oh, you are bad at this, or it's your fault you didn't do this, and it's your fault. Maybe sometimes you got to look and do a little self-reflection, right? Maybe it's me. Am I the common denominator? Am I the problem? How can I improve? How can I learn from this experience? Because at the end of the day, if you dwell over the bad stuff too long, you're never going to grow as a person or even as a man. So if you're not taking everything as a blessing in disguise, because you can always learn from the bad, there's some good that can come from that. But you have to be mature enough to find that and just know that, hey, look, maybe I effed up. Like, you know what? That's on me, bro. Like, I missed that block on that special teams coverage unit. That was my fault, missing that tackle. I should have took a better angle there. Oh, that was my fault in coverage and that cover one. Maybe I should have played inside leverage a little bit more, because I know I didn't have the inside help that I would have, because that running back came out of the flat and you're supposed to take on that flat and take on that underneath the fence. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's a lot of self-reflection going on here. And I think everyone has to be honest with themselves that if you effed up, you effed up. Just be man enough to say, I effed up. But don't cower back and say, oh, no, why are you singling me out, or whatever the case may be? Because then for me, if that was me, well, I was never one to do that. I would always be like, okay, well, then what about you? What did you do? I'm joking. But I can kind of see how that would happen. But I don't think that's happening. But if it is, I mean, that's something that really needs to be addressed. And from a coaching perspective, you got to shut that down. You got to say, hey, look, if you're going to buy in, buy in. Otherwise, get the hell out. We don't need you. We don't need you on this team. If you're going to cry and complain and stuff, then get out. If you're not buying into what we're doing, why are you here in the first place? You're not listening anyways. You're not doing what we preach and practice anyways. So what difference does it make if you're here or not? In fact, you're dead weight. You're dead weight. I'd rather have somebody off the street who we claim off the waiver wire like Jerry Tillery to come in here. I'm joking. I'm just making an example here. Right? Or another guy that we claim off the waiver wire, or another undrafted free agent that they bring in for good depth. Come on. Let's keep it 100. If you're not buying into the program, you're a cancer to the team. If you're not buying into the program, you're a cancer to the team, plain and simple. And that is a direct reflection upon you for failing to do what's asked of you, because that just means you're uncoachable. Egalitarian 207 says, "What's up, Beast? What's going on, man? How you doing?" He's Shrimp Boat Captain says, "I think the 3 defensive linemen who were inactive this week has something to do with them getting pissed about Chandler Jones getting all the reps." We really don't know what's going on here with that, but I did talk to Coach McDaniels about it. If you guys want to see what I had to say, it's up on Twitter. It's here on the YouTube channel. And again, all the beat writers are sharing the question, so it's great. I asked a pretty good question today, which is not very often. Apparently, Coach Graham likes my questions. Coach McDaniels likes my questions too, I think. Jesse Cardenas says, "You would rather go defensive end than defensive tackle, Anderson over Carter." I think I would rather go, again, based on the scheme now, right? If I was to start a franchise, I'd want edge rusher, which is Will Anderson, over a defensive tackle like Jalen Carter. And the reason I say that is because Jalen Carter is a very, 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 very good interior defensive lineman. I graded him over the last 2 years. But Will Anderson's just different. Will Anderson is just different. Roll Tide, roll. But I like both players. I really do. You can't go wrong with either one. I would be happy with either. Egalitarian says, "Beast, do you think Jerry Tillery was a good signing?" Talked about that. Yes, I talked about that earlier in the live stream. I do think it's a good signing. I think it's a signing that signals iron sharpens iron mentality. Look, we talked about this throughout training camp, and I mentioned iron sharpens iron mentality before Coach McDaniels even mentioned iron sharpens iron mentality. Just like today, owner Mr. Davis talked about Rome wasn't built in a day. I talked about Rome wasn't built in a day. Just like instant gratification, talked about that on earlier live streams, and owner Mr. Davis talked about instant gratification today. Beast receipt. But no, I do think it's a good signing. Because what do you have to lose? Notre Dame product. Maybe had some run-ins early on with some off-field behavior, cleaned it up. Can convert that speed to power. Hey, man, has the length, 34 1/4 inch arm length. Give me that. 6'6", 295. Give me that. I wish I was 6'6", 295, but I'm not. I'm 5'5" and 150 pounds. If that. Can't coach that kind of size, can you? I don't think so. And my arm length is probably 2 inches. Oh, man. T-Raider says, "Beast, thanks for all you do. I'm just checking in." Hey, man, T-Raider, thank you so much for hopping on, man, here in the dark side of BEASTwriter. Happy that you have joined us here on this lovely, happy Monday. Could always be worse, guys. Could always be worse. But thank you so much for joining in. I'm glad you are here. V said, "Did almost 1K calories of cardio during this live. Oh, wow, I see you. Okay, he said, "Did almost 1,000 calories of cardio during this live. Keep them coming. It's a good way to pass the time in the suck." Well, I'm glad you're doing cardio. You're multitasking. You're listening to this live stream. To be honest with you, a lot of people do that. They watch my live stream on replay, or they listen to it like a podcast, and that's really cool that you guys do that. And the feedback that I get from just hearing these kind words actually make this all worthwhile. So again, if you're watching, it's an hour and 23 minutes and 39 seconds in, just give it a thumbs up. It will definitely help the Dark Side of BEASTwriter family grow, and that's the whole point of the DOB. So we can kind of, again, we give back to the DOB all the time. And if you guys are just joining us, we are giving away 2 giveaways this week. And one is the Raider Nation Rally Towel. All right. And the other one is this 2022 alumni jersey for your Raiders silver and black memorabilia. I will pick 2 lucky winners just for following me as a thank you. So mahalo to each and every one of you for doing that. Joe Flaw says, repping that Crimson Tide hat, but question, would you rather have Young or Anderson on the Raiders next year? Oh my gosh, that is a great question. I send me a super chat for the answer. No, I'm joking, because that's a tough question. Early in the year, I got to be honest, I was a huge Derek Carr supporter. Not so much anymore. I like him as a person. Got to know him as a person on a personal level. Like him as a person. Think he's a good leader. But it seems like he just doesn't. I don't know what the word is. I feel like there's something missing in his game. And I don't know if that's a dual threat ability, because he can run. There's just something missing there. I think if you add a guy to Coach McDaniels' offense, like a Bryce Young, the future is bright. The future is really bright. Same with Will Anderson. You have Will Anderson, and you have a guy like Max Crosby on the edges for the foreseeable future. I mean, can you name a better 1-2 punch from the edge rushing perspective? I'm not so sure. So again, when I run the grades, when I look at what is needed in order for Coach McDaniels to thrive, in order for GM Dave Ziegler to kind of build out his team how he sees the vision, I would have to say Bryce Young. I would have to take a flyer on Bryce Young over Will Anderson, simply because I think Bryce Young is a quarterback. And in the past happy NFL, you see the league trending that way, right? You have to go where the trend is, right? It's like you got to go where the money is. That's why I'm here in Vegas. Joking. But no, I think Bryce Young would be the smarter play, because when you look at it for what it really is, having a Bryce Young to work with under Coach McDaniels, I guarantee it. If Bryce Young has an offensive line, which, a better offensive line than Derek Carr has now, I think you will see a lot of magic. Let's put it out there. I think you'll see a lot of magic. I like Bryce Young. Aloha, Jamie. How are you doing today? Oh, man. People are doing their cardio, hitting 1,000 calories. That means I've been on this live stream for a very long time for you to hit 1,000 calories while on this live stream. So if you like it, give it a thumbs up on the social media platform you're on. Also, if you'd like to support, you can send me a super chat or super sticker here on YouTube. There's a money icon, and be sure to do that, and I can answer your question, and that will be prioritized. Or if you want me to send me a super chat or super sticker and have me do something funny, I will do that too. I used to do that here in the Dark Side of BEASTwriter. Maybe I'll get back into doing that. D-Man says, hit that like button. Yeah, hit that like button. Give it a thumbs up. He says, hit that. Or you can just say, hit that. Just hit that. Aloha, Dennis. Dennis is always supporting, and he's also a mod here in the DOB. All right. Jessica says, if we do not bring back Derek Carr, who is the bridge quarterback to get us by for a year or two? I like Jarrett Stidham. Now, I know Jarrett Stidham is like, wow, I like Jarrett Stidham. He's smart. He stands tall in the pocket. He delivers the football. He knows Coach McDaniels' system. So if you're talking about a bridge quarterback, he's the perfect example. Look, there's a reason why they traded draft capital to get Jarrett Stidham to Las Vegas in the first place. Why would you go out and get someone else, right? So I like Jarrett Stidham. I see him in practice. He plays well in practice. Trust me on this. And so Jarrett Stidham is a guy I really like. Now, Jarrett Stidham may not be a fan of my Roll Tide Roll clothes, and he's supposed to give me an Auburn hat, by the way. He's like, I'm going to give you something Auburn. Would you wear it? I said, yeah. And he asked him, hey, where's my Auburn? He's like, no. He's like, I don't think you deserve it, jokingly. No, but I like Jarrett Stidham. I think I like Derek Carr. I like both those guys, but I think Jarrett Stidham would be a good stopgap and someone that Bryce Young or CJ Stroud can learn from for the foreseeable future. And again, it's not as easy as a 1-2, right? playing quarterback position, you're seeing different cover shells than you do in a spread formation or a spread offense or whatever the case may be. You're playing a pro style offense. So a lot of the rules of engagement kind of change. Now you can kind of say this is a copycat league, but at the end of the day, it's still a different ball game. The speed of the game is a lot faster. So you're going to have to process your progressions a lot faster. And I think when you do that, you need a quarterback who gets it from the shoulders up. And I think Bryce Young is the guy to do it. Mr. Maui says, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. He says, where do you get your energy and drive from, bro? Keep doing your thing. I don't know. I guess ever since I was a kid, I would always have a lot of energy. Like no matter what sport I played, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, I was always running around. Like I never got tired. And people will tell you that. I mean, my high school friends who are watching here, they would tell you that. Like I'm always the first one in, the last one out. I'm always on the go. In fact, and that mindset, that work ethic, I think was instilled in me from my parents. I think I got that from my parents. And so I see the way they worked throughout their lifetime and just kind of instilled in me the traits to go ahead and do the same. And that work ethic, again, I always say this, you may like me, you may not like me, but no one can question my work ethic. And so that's kind of how I kind of live my life. Look, I run a few businesses. I work out 3-4 hours a day, right? I have a 9-to-5 job covering the Las Vegas Raiders. Then I have to hop on this live stream and provide you guys the content that you guys all crave, right? So again, I do a lot of different things here, but at the end of the day, it's something that I just kind of got accustomed to doing. And once again, goes back to performing a good habit. Once you perform good habits, you're a slave to that habit, right? Because you don't know any different. It's just clockwork. It's like when I go to the gym, I keep telling people at the gym, like, oh man, how are you here so long? It's like I condition my body to do things it doesn't want to do. For instance, Kobe Bryant, the great Kobe Bryant, right? We talk about the Mamba mentality. We also talk about the beast mentality on Instagram, right? Even before Mamba mentality became Mamba mentality. I talked about this back in 2015. And we talked about the different mindset you have to be great. Like what are you going to do to be at the top of the mountain? Right? I always give this example. Everyone wants to talk a big game and be a beast until it's time to do what real beasts do. All right? You start at the bottom of the mountain. There's 20 people with you at the bottom of the mountain. Cool story, bro. I can do it. I can climb that mountain. Really? Okay, let's climb it. You get a quarter of the way up. 5 people drop off. I'm like, oh, there's only 15 of us now. Okay, cool. You go halfway, another 5 drop off. Dang, half the people already jumped ship. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to keep going. You get 3/4 of the way, another 5 people drop off. Oh, there's only 5 of us left, only a handful. Wow, you made it. Congratulations, but we ain't done yet. You get to the top of the mountain, it's only you. Once you reach the pinnacle of that mountain, now you hit the standard. Now it's time to climb a higher mountain. You're always trying to one-up yourself. Being the best version of yourself is being able to one-up yourself and be true to yourself and where you're at in the present location that you're in. So for me, I burn 1,000 calories in an hour. How do you do that? After a intense 3-hour workout. Well, I train my body to do things it doesn't think it can because my mind tells me one thing, but my body also tells me another. How do you create the synergy to where both align to where now I can go further than what my mind thinks I can push? And that's how I am. That's how I always grind it out. And again, people call me crazy. If there's one word that people describe me, they would call me crazy. One word. They would call me crazy in a good way. But thank you so much, Mr. Maui, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Aloha D Menace. He says, my bad, highest. Climb the highest mountain. The highest mountain. That's what you got to climb. Yeah. I always use that scenario because it's true. Like everyone wants to, oh, it's cool. I can do it. Then do it. Go. Knock yourself out. Right? Do it. They can't do it. Oh, so it's like this, right? When I compete. Oh, I can compete. I just can't do the diet part. Well, then you can't compete because you're not disciplined enough to do the diet part. Oh, but I need a social life. I need work-life. But there's no work-life balance. I'm sorry. The people who have work-life balance are not where they are because of work-life balance. There's work and then there's more work. It's a sacrifice between being real with who you are and being real with what you want. Let's keep it 100 here. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, but it's not easy. So no, you can't compete because you can't do the diet. You can't compete because you won't have a social life and you can't live without that social life. You can't compete because of XYZ. I'm just keeping 100. Oh, no, blah, blah, blah. SVT Vasquez says, Beast, I just got accepted into a nursing program. I'm climbing that mountain. There you go, man. That's what I like to hear. And congratulations on climbing that mountain and getting accepted into the nursing program. I know how hard the nursing program is because I had to do a whole 15-page essay back at San Diego State on the shortage of nurses in California at the time. And I already know the shortage of nurses that there are today here in Nevada. It is tough. In California, it's tough everywhere, but there is a rhyme behind the reasoning why there is a shortage of nurses. I can go and talk to you about that because that 15-page essay that I had to do years ago still holds true today. It's crazy. We need more people like you saving our lives. Seriously, without you guys, we wouldn't be where I know for sure. I wouldn't be where I am today without nurses and doctors and all that. So healthcare is very important, and without healthcare, you're not in good health. But no, congratulations. That's great news, SVT Vasquez. And I see you always sharing my stuff on YouTube on Instagram. Excuse me. You're here on YouTube, but you share my stuff on Instagram. Thank you so much for sharing my stories. I appreciate it. And it really does mean a lot when you do share it. So I do see you sharing everything that I post, and especially the Denzel Perryman video. That was really, really cool. So I just wanted to say mahalo for that in doing so. All right. So Raiders 7528 says, I speak with NFL players daily. In short, they all say Carr is mid. One of the elite quarterbacks I spoke to suggested the Raiders should have gotten rid of Carr last season. Okay. So Raiders 7528 says he speaks to a lot of players and he thinks that Carr is a mid player, is what I'm guessing. Correct me if I'm wrong. And one of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL said I spoke to suggested the Raiders should get rid of Carr last season. Egalitarian says 207 says I was a nursing school student at one point. Oh, wow. So you were grinding. And it's hard just to get into the nursing school program. It's very difficult, very competitive. I'm sure you have the competitive drive and the will to win. No, but that's really cool. I mean, it's tough. It's not easy. That's a tough program, man. It's very, very tough. Congratulations. I'm very happy for you. Climb that mountain, my guy. Egalitarian 207 says, facts, Ryan Fitzpatrick and Gardner Minshew look like Raiders. All right, so I think that's going to wrap up this live stream. We are at an hour and 37 minutes, and I hope you guys liked what we had to say. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and like the video. And again, please share it on other social media, on all your social media respective platforms that you're on. It does me a lot of help, and it helps us as the DOB family grows, because once you're in here, you're part of the Dark Side of BEASTwriter family. I don't like calling you followers or whatever the case may be. I call you guys my supporters, my family. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. This was another cool live stream. I will be hopping back tomorrow. And again, everything is in the description box below. And be sure to follow me on the Sporting Tribune as well as my social media outlets. So obviously, social media is listed below. But then also, I also cover the Raiders as a beat writer for the Sporting Tribune for Arash Markazi. So be sure to follow the Sporting Tribune. I'll be posting up videos for the Sporting Tribune as well as we keep things hot here in the DOB. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I just want to give a special shout out to those who provided those super chats and super stickers. Thank you so much. I didn't want to miss anyone. Dylan Hawley, thank you so much for the super chat and super sticker. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Kevin Lurker, for asking me the Will Anderson or Roquan Smith question. As you guys remember, I asked the Aloha kickoff video once Roquan Smith declared and requested a trade from Raiders headquarters. I went on and said, hey, they should really look into this guy, GM Dave Ziegler. Thank you so much, Mr. Maui 38, for asking me where I keep the energy from. I hope you guys enjoy my energy and my passion and all things silver and black, because I really do think this team is trending in the right direction. It's my job to go ahead and keep you guys updated as things unfold. So hopefully you guys have come to love my content on a daily basis. So thank you so much. D Menace, thank you so much. And yeah, and we don't mean high. We mean high as in the mountain. But no, thank you so much for all the love and support, man. Like I said, you've been down since day one. Thank you for modding everything here in the DOB, and I wouldn't be here without you guys in my corner. So thank you so much. And again, that's going to wrap up the show. Stay tuned tomorrow for another Pick 6 live stream as we keep things hot here in the dark side of BEASTwriter. Take care for now. Have a good day. BEASTwriter out.